So let's talk about Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Elliott Zuckerberg was born on May 14, 1984. 1984. Mellow greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to part 4 of the series about the 4 horses of the apocalypse and my interpretation of who the riders will be. If you're new here, welcome to the Relevant Elevant channel. I discuss relevant cultural issues that are a lot of times disturbing, and then I also discuss, to make you feel a little bit better about the world, something uplifting. I call it Elevant, and that can be anything I can think of. So if that's something you might like, make sure to click subscribe and notification bell and all that. You know what to do. All right, let's move on to the final horse and its rider. Finally, the pale horse. The Bible says, "When the Lamb opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4th living creature say, 'Come and see.' I looked, and there before me was a pale horse. Its rider was named Death, and Hades was following close behind him. They were given power over 1/4 of the earth to kill by sword, famine, and plague, and by the wild beasts of the earth." This is from Revelations. So let me introduce to you the one that I think will be the rider, Mark Zuckerberg. He is the easiest to me to identify because he's like a pony, and he's also very pale. Basically, the pawn of the more powerful, older ones. He brings that by attempting to remove the human race from the real world by imprisoning us in his virtual made-up world, the METAVERSE. If you want to find out more about the METAVERSE, I have made a separate video dedicated just to that, so I'm going to put a link to that in the show notes. So let's talk about Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Elliott Zuckerberg was born on May 14, 1984. 1984. In White Plains, New York. His father, Edward Zuckerberg, ran a dental practice, and his mother, Karen, really? Karen? It all makes sense now. Worked as a psychiatrist. He is the chairman, chief executive, and co-founder of the social networking website Facebook, as well as one of the world's youngest billionaires. His net worth is estimated to be $51.8 billion as of 2016. Might be lower now since he has been fucking up a lot and since he decided to rebrand his company to focus on the metaverse. Mark Zuckerberg co-founded Facebook out of his college dorm room, allegedly, with his college roommates and fellow Harvard University students Eduardo Saverin, Andrew McCollum, Dustin Moskovitz, and Chris Hughes. And the reason I say allegedly a lot in this, when I'm talking about these things, is because the stories that we are told about these people's origin story, I'm not sure that's how it all worked. Like, yes, he did go to Harvard and he did work from his dorm room, but sometimes I feel like that's all just a facade, but there's a lot more to the story. Anyways, and where are these guys now? I have no idea, but I bet Mark does. He left Harvard after his sophomore year to concentrate on the site, the user base of which has grown to more than 250 million people, making Zuckerberg a billionaire. This is supposed to be a story of organic success during a time of innovation in the internet era. But I think we are smart enough to know better. His origin story sounds a lot like the one from the previous writer, Bill Gates. Genius kid at elite university quits college because he has something better than good cooked up in his garage. Then makes billions and lives happily ever after. Come on, that's too stupid to be real. I'm sure there are more powerful influences working on the rise of these two writers to mega elite status. I think, allegedly. Zuckerberg met Priscilla Chan, his current wife, who is from China.
Oh, don't trust China. China is it. Oh.
At a fraternity party during his sophomore year at Harvard. They began dating in 2003, and after a long gap, Zuckerberg and Jane married on May 19, 2012. So normal, right? The story goes that Facebook just grew and grew, and Mark and Priscilla lived happily ever after, and politics were not involved in their lives at all. But they were so rich, they wanted to make the world better. Okay, I don't want to overdo my barfing, but Zuckerberg and his wife made $419 million in contributions to nonprofit organizations during the 2020 election cycle. $350 million to the Safe Elections project of the Center for Technology and Civic Life. Another $69.5 million to the Center for Election Innovation and Research. That improperly influenced the 2020 presidential election on behalf of one particular candidate and party. That would be the Democratic Party. Let's take a look at what happened. Founded by hundreds of millions of dollars from Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg and other high-tech interests, activist organizations created a two-tiered election system that treated voters differently depending on whether they lived in Democratic or Republican strongholds. Amistad project director Phil Klein wrote in the report's executive summary. This report identified 3 key actions that, taken together, represent the beginning of the formation of a two-tier election system, favoring one demographic while disadvantaging the other. For example, private monies dictated city and county election management contrary to both federal law and state election plans endorsed and developed by state legislatures, with authority granted by the United States Constitution. Executive officials in swing states facilitated, through unique and novel contracts, the sharing of private and sensitive information about citizens within those states with private interests, some of whom actively promoted leftist candidates and agendas. Swing state governors also started issuing emergency executive orders, shutting down in-person voting while pouring new state resources into encouraging persons to vote in advance. Polling data revealed this coordinated assault on in-person voting generally favored Democrat Party voters, who preferred to vote in advance, while placing Republicans who preferred to vote in person at a disadvantage. These actions represent the beginning of the formation of a two-tiered election system, favoring the demographic on the left. And this was just the beginning. Now, Facebook openly censors any dissenting opinions and suspends users' accounts if they do not fall in line with the mainstream narrative, sometimes for a few days or forever, depending on how bad the offense is. If you have followed my channel for a while, you know I quit Facebook pretty much at the same time I started this channel because they kept censoring all my stuff. I was tired of the ridiculous censorship and fact-checking, which means censorship of ideas they don't like. So the rider of the pale horse that wants to bring death to the real world and put all of us in his metaverse pods is Mark Zuckerberg, the only person whose avatar is more relatable than his actual human version. He's also pretty pale and he looks either dead or like a cyborg. I have a message for all the 4 riders. You know how this ends. God wins. That is all. So I have some more questions. I have lots of questions about Mark Zuckerberg. Number 1, his wife is Chinese. And we all know that China is asshole.
Oh, don't trust China. China is asshole.
Knowing how husbands and wives always look out for each other and each other's interests, whose interests do you think Mark Zuckerberg is looking after? Us, we the people, the plebs, or his Chinese wife? I'm sure you know the answer. Also on the plus side, Facebook, I think, is losing its influence. Like now it's mostly for boomers. All the young kids are on other platforms. like TikTok, which are also from China.
Oh, don't trust China. China is an oh.
So it's not really better, but at least one positive thing is that I don't think Facebook has the same influence as it did in 2020 when it helped rig the elections, allegedly. I think that when the next election cycle comes, they're not going to be able to pull the same things, or really it's not going to matter that much, because most people are not really on Facebook that much anymore, at least the thinking people. And again, I think that Mark Zuckerberg's origin story is kind of bullshit, and that he was kind of planted for all of this to happen. I think this is part of a much bigger plan, the whole Facebook growth and explosion. It wasn't just so organic. The most important thing that Facebook did is collect people's data without their permission for the most part, and like now they have all this data from all of us, and they can do anything they want with it. And people became so dependent on the platform, at least in the last few years, because it kept expanding and adding features, and it had games, it had marketplace, it had different chat rooms and all kinds of things, groups, pages. People were using it for their business. Some businesses would only use like their Facebook page instead of building their own website. And I think that's where we went wrong. I think we need to rectify that. If you have a business, make your own website. Don't use a Facebook page. You're just helping the elitists, globalists keep control of you. Just build a website on Wix or on WordPress. There's so many platforms. Just go make one. It's not that hard. Or have somebody make one for you, and use that in your business card. Don't use Facebook. Just don't do it. The fact that a social network was able to have so much influence over an election, and the fact that they are so openly censoring dissenting opinions, just shows you how far down the 1984 rabbit hole we have gone, which I find it really weird that Mark Zuck was born in 1984. When I was on Facebook and I left because every time I said something that always, most of the time, ended up being truth, they would just put like, oh, this is fact-checked, this is sensitive information, or they just like shut down my account and put me in Facebook jail. That's when I was like, okay, things are not okay. This is not okay. This is America. We still have free speech. So next time you share a picture of a cat on Facebook, think about that and move your cat pictures to Truth Social. For the Elevant part of this video, since it's so long, I'm just gonna give you a few tips on how to make it when the 4 horsemen come. Number 1, be prepared. Have a plan, have food, weapons, ammo, transportation, medical supplies, comms, and a team. Number 2, pray. Then pray some more. Number 3, don't let your normalcy bias fool you. Hope for the best, but be ready for the worst. Number 4, stay connected to the people in your life. Number 5, connect with more people, because we are stronger together. Number 6, do not put your pronouns in your bio, because that's just stupid. Well, I think that's all I got. Thank you for watching. Make sure to comment and subscribe. Hit the buttons. Stay awake, stay alert, and stay alive. These are the end times, my friends, so we better be ready. I'll see you on the next one.